Yesterday marked 8 years since the announcement of the original Nintendo Switch. And although it is abundantly clear that the sun is setting on the console, it's not quite over for it yet, because the Nintendo Switch still has a couple of missing games, 5 to be exact. To start off this video, let's talk a bit about how much time there's left for these games to come out, or rather to be announced I should say. Although it is heavily speculated that the past Nintendo Direct we received in August was the last Switch-focused Direct, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is all over for Switch. Simply that the next Direct we have will also include Switch 2 games. As it is well known by now, Nintendo is looking into having a smooth transition from one console to the other. And in this moment in time, I take it to mean that Nintendo is still going to support the original Nintendo Switch even when the Switch 2 is released. They're not just going to let the Switch go cold turkey. But for how much longer can we realistically expect Nintendo to support the Switch 1 when Switch 2 is out there? Personally, I think just one more year. One more fiscal year exact. So basically, I won't personally be expecting Nintendo to be releasing anything major or at all really on the original Nintendo Switch after March 31st, 2026. Additionally, if Nintendo does not reveal the Nintendo Switch 2 anytime soon, by the end of this year basically, I predict that there will only be 2 Nintendo Directs next year. So if we don't see these games in the next 2 Nintendo Directs, yeah, I wouldn't wait for them. But now that we have our timeline set, now let's start talking about the 5 games, and these games I've listed from least likely to most likely. The first game on the list is a remaster of F-Zero GX. Although it pains me to say, I feel like this is the least likely of the 5 to actually come out. This rumor stems by a, debatably credible leaker by the name of Zippo. It's totally up to you to decide if you're willing to believe this or not. Like I said, I am personally, leaning more on the side of this isn't true. Basically, Zippo has shared that apparently there is a full remaster of F-Zero GX coming to the Switch. I would assume that this remaster means that the game will run at 60 FPS at 1080p to fit more, the Switch's gaming output, and allegedly this game is rumored to be called F-Zero GX Recharged, and apparently is completely done and ready to go. Nintendo is just simply sitting on it. But especially at the time that this rumor was very popular, it was really hard to think about Nintendo ever going back to F-Zero because I feel like that ship has just sailed and it was one of those franchises that they weren't planning on revisiting. However, eventually on September 14th, 2023, Nintendo comes out and releases F-Zero 99. And here's where we meet the fork in the road. Because in my opinion, and again, my opinion, F-Zero 99 can almost be considered a remake of the original F-Zero, and of course adding a modern twist. So the way I feel about this situation is I feel like Zippo probably heard that there was going to be a remake / remaster of a old F-Zero game. They would have assumed that it was going to be GX, but turns out it would have been the original. And I feel this whole rumor was actually about F-Zero 99. However, some are taking it to mean that this is Nintendo basically testing out the waters to see if there is still demand for a F-Zero game, kind of getting us primed up for a remake or remaster of F-Zero GX and maybe even leading into a brand new game in the future. But again, if this game is allegedly already made, why would you make another game to prime up for the first game to maybe have a third game? It just doesn't add up to me. I mean, I'll stop myself right here and say I hope I'm wrong, because I would love to see F-Zero GX on the Switch, but unfortunately I don't feel like it's super likely. Next up, we have a HD port of Kid Icarus Uprising. I feel like this game is a lot more credible than the last, mostly because of who is mentioning it. The person mentioning it is not only an insider, they worked with Nintendo on multiple occasions, and that is none other than Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Smash Bros. And Kirby. Not only that, but Masahiro Sakurai also worked on the original Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS. As I imagine most of you watching already know, Masahiro Sakurai is currently not developing any games. Instead, he's taking a break and working on a YouTube channel. But even if Sakurai's YouTube channel is coming to an end, I still feel like this game is more unlikely rather than likely. Because even if he does express that he really does want this game to be ported up to the Switch or just, get the HD treatment, it doesn't necessarily mean that Nintendo has to listen to him. I know I personally never played the game and I would love the opportunity to be able to play it in HD. I do own the game for the 3DS, but I only bought it like a couple of months ago. And from what I've been hearing, the control scheme is just not really great because there's no left stick on the 3DS, so it kind of makes the controls wonky a bit. Additionally, recently there's been reports coming out that Bandai Namco is sending kind of just employees to a expulsion room, where basically the employees that are sent to this room are sent to work in there, but there is no work for them to be done. They do this to circumvent labor laws in Japan where companies can't just fire you or do like mass layoffs, but by sending groups of people in these rooms to do nothing, eventually they get bored and they just leave. And also, allegedly, there's some projects that were proposed to Bandai Namco by even Nintendo that got scrapped. And people are speculating that this project might have been proposed, just kind of got scrapped. But either way, even if Sakurai does work with Nintendo, I don't think it's enough as a basis for the rumor, so I personally don't think it's that likely. But either way, I'm going to hold on hope, and hopefully one day we get to play this game not only in HD, but with 2 joysticks. Now that we've already talked about 2 games that are probably a little less likely, let's talk about the 3 games that I think hold a lot better of a chance of coming out. But before that, I just have a little something to say. If this is your first time here, hey, my name's Acadrien and I post weekly Nintendo videos. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, I would greatly appreciate it if you would simply consider to like and subscribe. I'm really trying to see if we can hit 500 by the end of the year. But without further ado, let's go right back into the video. The next game, or games I should say, on the list is a twin pack of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. This game, or twin pack like I said, has been long rumored and long speculated by the community. And if I'm remembering correctly, I'm fairly sure this rumor started with Jeff Grubb kind of talking about it first, and then people like Midori, I know Midori is problematic and whatnot, but still, I'm fairly sure Midori also backed it up saying that, once again, the games were ready to go, just unreleased. Because even though a lot of people think that this ship has long since sailed for this game, I personally believe that Nintendo is strategically holding on to this game so that they can release it later on, even after Switch 2 is out. This way, even if focus is shifted to Switch 2, they can still look at us and say, hey look, we're still supporting the original Nintendo Switch even if Switch 2 is out. Especially if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, they kind of also don't lose anything either way, because we'll still be able to play it on Switch 2. This next game, I'll genuinely be shocked if it doesn't happen, and that game is none other than Fire Emblem Echoes Genealogy of the Holy War. I don't really have all that much to say about this game specifically. Originally, the game is a Japanese exclusive game, so we've never really had a version of this game come to the West. And not only that, but something else that makes this game feel just more realistic amongst others is that Intelligent Systems, the creators of Fire Emblem, so far has remade every game in order. And if that pattern was to continue, the next game in the lineup is Fire Emblem 4, which is Genealogy of the Holy War. So I don't necessarily remember firsthand where this rumor comes from, but I know that there were some theories to suggest that the remake was actually supposed to be released before Fire Emblem Engage, but kind of got delayed. And the reason why people thought that is because if you looked at the code names, this alleged Echoes game was actually numbered 1 number below the code name for Fire Emblem Engage. But yeah, I don't know. I'm personally a huge Fire Emblem fan, so I really hope that this does happen. Because I do know a fair bit about the characters that are in this game, just because I play a lot of Fire Emblem Heroes. Yes, I know it's 2024, but I've been playing since day 1 and I unfortunately cannot put the game down. But it would still be really fun to be able to go and actually play the real game where these characters come from so I can actually appreciate them a bit more. And now comes the time for our next game, and this next game I personally believe is the most likely of all, and that is a Metroid Prime 2+3 HD pack. Long before Metroid Prime 1 Remastered came out, there was a long-standing rumor that there was going to be a remaster, or a remake I should say, of Metroid Prime 1. And also there was going to be a port of Metroid Prime 2 and 3 that were also going to be made available for Switch. And these 3 games were meant to be released before Metroid Prime 4 as a way to make people more familiar with the franchise, of course, but also get hyped for Metroid Prime 4. I feel as though a lot of people were expecting to see this game be revealed and released before Metroid Prime 4. However, now we know about Metroid Prime 4, and these 2 games are kind of nowhere to be seen. But honestly, I still think it's far from over for these games. The way I personally expect it to roll out is like this. I would expect that in next Nintendo Direct, and if not next, the one after that, they will show off Metroid Prime 4 yet again, showing off more updates and just a bigger, better cinematic trailer of the game. And at the end, they are going to announce the release date. After that, the camera will fade away and go to Mr. Takahashi. So, what do you think? I hope you all look forward to playing Metroid Prime 4 once it releases and then he'll say the release date. Then he will say, meanwhile, I'd like you to take a look at this. A second trailer will pop up on screen, and it'll be a trailer for Metroid Prime 2 and 3. And I really do think that they will most likely end up shadow dropping this game just like they did with the original Metroid Prime 1 remaster and the Pikmin 1+2 bundle. This way they create a bunch of hype all surrounding Metroid Prime 4, but then they can also capitalize on our hype by giving us Metroid Prime 2 and 3 to play in the meantime. Or at least that's how I personally see it playing out. But now that brings us to the part of the video where I turn the question back to you. What do you think about the 5 games on this list? Do you think any of them have a chance of still getting released? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you've made it all the way up to here, what are your thoughts on the new beta test leaks from Nintendo? Because just as expected, that thing leaked instantly. But yeah, let me know down in the comments what you think about all of that. And until next time, Warao.